Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Inaya Siddiqui.
And my name is Bisana Bukhalaf.
And our topic is about cultural diversity in students. And we will be analyzing the impact that cultural diversity has on student development.
So today we will be talking about our hypothesis and methodology with our project. We will be describing the problem of cultural diversity or their lack of in schools. We will also be talking about how cultural diversity impacts students mentally and academically, as well as socially. We will then be introducing the UNICEF USA Cultural Festival that took place at our school, and there will also be a time for questions at the end. So our research question was, in what ways does the presence of cultural diversity in schools impact students socially, mentally, and academically?
So we hypothesized that the more culturally diverse that a school environment is, the more it'll contribute to a student's overall well-being, including the social, academic, and mental impacts. And for our methodology, we started off by doing an extensive literature review from each impact area. We looked at peer-reviewed articles, journal articles, cross-cultural studies regarding the social, mental, and academic impacts. And then after this, we synthesized that information and we drew conclusions, which inspired us to conduct the festival.
We also then had the application and the initiative portion of it. So after conducting our research, we felt motivated to, create more of a comfortable environment for students where they could proudly showcase their culture, which is why we held our culture festival. After the festival, we analyzed the feedback we received from participants and from visitors in order to improve the festival in future years.
So the description of the problem. So speaking from my personal experiences, I grew up in a predominantly, my parents immigrated here from Pakistan in the 90s, 2000s, and they were really excited to raise us here in America and assimilate us into the Western culture. So clearly I grew up around around Western culture and I was excited to be like them. So it was really hard to kind of bridge my home life and my school life, because at school I wanted to be like everyone else around me, but then at home I had this beautiful culture that I didn't express at school.
And for me personally, I moved to America in the second grade officially, and so it was kind of difficult for me to assimilate from, being in school in Jordan to then having to adapt to the American curriculum and the way that schools operate here. And also, I did grow up in middle school and a little bit of elementary school that I spent here with a predominantly white cohort. And so it was a lot more difficult for me to make friends and kind of connect with my peers. And I did face a lot of discrimination and racism for my religious beliefs as well as my culture. So this is why we're both so passionate about cultural diversity. So now we will be talking about the mental and academic impact of cultural diversity in schools. So starting off with the mental impact, research shows that attending diverse schools helps lower anxiety and depression for students in minority backgrounds. We looked at a study by DuPont-Reyes et al., and the study found that Latinx students in schools with higher racial and ethnic diversity reported fewer depressive and anxious symptoms compared to those in schools with predominantly non-Latinx white populations. So this study goes to show why that element of diversity is so important for students. And another study by Abu Khalaf et al. Shows that the lack of this element of diversity puts marginalized groups at a higher risk of facing discrimination. So the study found that other minorities, such as Muslims, are likely to face the detrimental effects of Islamophobia. The experiences of discrimination, marginalization, can lead to increased anxiety, depression, and feelings of isolation. Now looking at the academic impact of cultural diversity. So students from minority groups in schools with inclusive environments tend to show higher levels of engagement, motivation, and academic success. Supportive teacher practices and culturally responsive instructions help reduce stereotype threat and boost confidence in students. And on the other hand, when cultural diversity is overlooked and not as focused about in classes in school, achievement gaps often widen due to lower expectations and fewer opportunities for meaningful participation. So a study by Yoon et al. Aimed to see how parents, teachers, and school environment affect academic gaps between different racial and ethnic groups in middle school students. So it started off in the 6th grade and ended in the 8th grade. So they hypothesized that supportive and inclusive school settings help reduce achievement gaps. The participation sample included 3,115 students, 48% of which being female, 42% being male, with the average age being 11 years old. 40% of them were Latino, 31% Black, 29% white, and they looked at 39 urban public middle schools throughout the United States. So Yoon et al., the procedure of this study, so initially they collected the data from students, parents, and teachers at the beginning of their 6th grade year. Academic achievement was measured by standardized test scores all the way through the 8th grade, and they also sent out surveys to parents in order to assess their involvement in monitoring with their students. And they also looked at student-teacher relationships as well as the diversity within the school. The sample included, as I mentioned before, various urban public middle schools across the United States, and they used hierarchical linear modeling to analyze individual and school level influences on achievement over time. So essentially, hierarchical linear modeling, or HLM, it looks at data from different levels at the same time. So in this case, they were analyzing how individual student and school level factors influence academic achievement. So the level 1 factor that we were looking at was the student factors, which was basically parental monitoring, the student-teacher relationships, etc. And then the second level was school factors, which was racial and ethnic diversity, as well as socioeconomic status. The findings of the study was that greater racial and ethnic diversity in schools was significantly associated with higher academic achievement. And for Latinx students who were attending the more diverse schools, they had better teacher relationships, and they essentially were more successful academically. And the findings of the study is that the more diverse that a school is, the more comfortable a student is within their environment, and therefore with that element of inclusion, and they're less isolated and they have stronger bonds with their teachers as well as their peers, they're more likely to succeed academically.
So I will be talking about the social impact. The main topic that we looked at when looking at the social impact was student sense of belonging. And for this, we looked at the study of Cortina et al. So their aim was to see how universal the patterns for student sense of belonging are from an international comparative perspective. And their hypothesis was that countries are going to vary in this aspect, and most of their data came from this huge survey, 2003 Program for International Student Assessment. This basically just looked at a bunch of countries and got data from their sense of belonging. And it included 86,000 students, 3,000 schools in 31 countries. And the main focus of this study came from Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory. And they looked at two main concepts under their theory, which were power distance and individualistic versus collectivist societies. Power distance is basically the degree to which a society will accept that there's a hierarchy in that society. So if you were to have a higher power distance in your society, you would be more accepting of this class division. And if you would have a lower power distance in your society, you would want to be equal. You wouldn't want this class division at all. And for individualism versus collectivism in individualistic societies, people tend to make choices for the betterment of themselves, while in collectivist societies, people make decisions for the betterment of the group. And the same approach was used as the Yoon et al. Study, like Bisan had described. It just analyzes data that's grouped and looks at different levels. So for this study, they looked at their sense of belonging for the first level, and then the cultural traits of that country on the second. And the results showed that for power distance, I took stats, but I don't know if I necessarily get it, but their p-value was a lot lower, so they ended up rejecting the null hypothesis, which supported the hypothesis that school cultures in which hierarchies are more pronounced, students experience less sense of belonging in the school. And for the individualistic aspect of it, in Model 4A, it shows that the p-value was a lot lower, so it supported their hypothesis that students in more individualistic or Western countries reported higher belonging than students in collectivist. And as you can see with this graph, the countries with lower power index scores show that they felt a more sense of belonging. So what this means in relation to cultural diversity in schools, it basically shows that students feel more connected when they're equal and heard. So the festival that we will talk about later, we saw this research and wanted to make sure that people were feeling equal and heard, so they felt a higher sense of belonging, which the research showed. And for the individualistic aspect of it, the individualistic society, they express self-expression, so students will feel more connected to the school if they're able to express themselves. So we wanted this to be another key aspect of the festival, allowing students to express themselves so they felt more belonging at school. And now we will be talking about the UNICEF Culture Festival. So why UNICEF? Me and Bisan are proudly co-founders of the UNICEF chapter at our school. UNICEF is a non-profit organization that aids in countries worldwide, and aids for children in countries worldwide, and who are in need due to poverty, conflict, or natural disasters. We partnered with UNICEF because they share the same ideals as we do. Basically just promoting diversity, unity, and global awareness, and which made it a more meaningful collaboration for us.
So, what was the Culture Festival? The UNICEF Cultural Festival took place on Thursday, March 27th, and it was open to all of Alamance County. We had 2 sessions that day. We had the first session, which took place from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m., and this was open exclusively just for our school, as well as an elementary school that came by that focuses on global education. And they were able to come by, look at all of the booths, and partake in a scavenger hunt and competition for a prize. And we also had another event from 5:30 to 8, which was open to the entire community, where parents were able to come by. We also had Dr. Lane come by, as well as Ms. Womack, and they were able to look around at our event. And this event was open to the public. So, the process. So initially we had to get administrative approval for the event. This was a little bit different because we were doing it throughout the day, so students would have to be leaving class to come to the event. The principal was very on board with the idea, so we ended up being able to do it all day. We then had to recruit participants, so we had many volunteers. We had students who were interested in hosting their own booth. We also had students who were interested in running other, just volunteering around and making sure everything went smoothly, such as at the UNICEF booth where we had merchandise, or at the scavenger hunt booth where they would be handing out the scavenger hunts. And then, so initially this was only open to the UNICEF club members, and then after that, it was open to the entire school. So ultimately, the entire school was involved in this project. We reached out to our community, as well as external engagement, so we promoted a lot on social media to get that second portion of the event, the evening portion, a lot of traction, make sure a lot of people knew about it so we can have a lot more people come. And then we also reached out to Dr. Lane, and she was able to help us prepare the materials for the event. So the Teagle Foundation sponsored a lot of the decorations that we had. We had, just decorations all over, as well as minor things like extension cords or, table runners, all that stuff. And then we also reached out to UNICEF USA, and we held a fundraiser with them. We raised about $200 throughout the day for general UNICEF USA causes, and they sent us merchandise, t-shirts, pins, stickers, so that in order for people to donate at least $5, they could in turn get some merchandise. And then lastly, we had our setup and execution. We set up the event the night before, and we got started right the next day, early at 8 a.m. So these are the pictures that we have from the event. So this picture right here is that one that we took the evening before of the setup. And then the picture that is on the right, you have you can see just the general overview of the event. You can see that we have 3 booths. We have the Freedom Scholars booth, which is where we had like a poster that explained what the program was so that we can educate our peers about the program in case they're ever interested in it. We also had the middle booth, which told people what UNICEF was and what we were fundraising for. And then the final booth was the merchandise booth where people could come by and, purchase any merchandise. So overall, we had 22 different countries/cultures participate in the event. You did not necessarily need to be a part of this culture or country to hold the booth. We had 72 volunteers, 60 of which being for the countries, and then the rest being just volunteers to help make the event run more smoothly. And in total, we had around 1,100 visitors. This was from, the entirety of our school that came by, and then also the community that came by in the evening. And then this is the range of countries we had, ranging all the way from Afghanistan to Vietnam. We basically got almost every continent, almost.
And here's a quick little video of the Smith Elementary students that we had invited. They were really excited to be there, and they come from a global school. Oh.
Yes, me too.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, it's just wait. Just wait.
Thank you.
That's me shouting thank you. They were really excited to be there, and they were really curious about their little scavenger hunt. Oh, where's my clicker? Oh. And then this is a picture of all of our volunteers, well, most of them. This was after the long, tiring night the night before, setting up the festival. And then this was the day of, in the morning at 8 a.m. in our beautiful cultural clothes. And you can see how excited we are to start this festival. They just set up their booths and we're ready to greet the Smith Elementary students. And really, we wanted this festival to be something that continued in the future. So we trained some underclassmen. They're around in this general area. They like to group up. But we trained them and taught them how to run a festival like this and what they need to do to recruit members and get people excited about it through social media and everything. So this won't just happen this year, but will continue on in the future as well. And Dr. Lane had talked to the superintendent, and he was very excited about making this something that's annual and not even just at Williams, but in Alamance County as a whole.
So this is an example of one of the booths that we had. Kind of just displays all of the types of things that you could have at your booth. So this was the Mexico booth. They had a trifold that talked about their culture, their country, a little bit of geographical facts, and facts about their traditional foods. As you can see on the table, they had some more decorative items. They also had an iPad that was playing more traditional music. To the side, they had drinks, and beside the drinks, yes, thank you, Anaya. And then beside the drinks, they had an interactive whiteboard that asked all of the visitors to pick which soccer team they were more, which team they supported the most. And you can tell they're also wearing their Mexico jerseys. So this is just an example of, what all of the countries had the ability to place on their display at their booths. So yeah.
Yeah, so this was our UNICEF booth. We wanted to emphasize that UNICEF was the club that hosted this, and we wanted more people to join our club. So we have our lovely volunteer here, Jaden Smith. He was giving out merch for everyone that attended the festival. And over here in the background, you can see this beautiful quinceañera dress, by the way. It was the star of the show, honestly. And here are the 3 booths that Bisan had talked about earlier. The Freedom Scholars booth, Teagle Foundation, the donation booth, and the merch booth. Here are just some more general photos of the booths. We have Jamaica up here. We have Brazil, Afghanistan, Palestine. This was my booth, the Pakistan booth. We had a lot of food. People are excited about the food. That was honestly one of the biggest incentives. And we also have Greece in the middle here. And yeah, really what this shows is that people were excited about this. We told the members of UNICEF to be like, hey, just have some information, have some random interactive things, and just make something that might be presentable. And they came up with all of this, and it was really exciting to see how excited they were. And I am a part of the National Art Honor Society at my high school. So I came up with an idea of hosting a workshop for the art members and teaching them the art of henna. So I conducted this workshop and I taught them pressure. I taught them how to make these designs on your hands and create a temporary tattoo. And they got really excited about it. They practiced and practiced and practiced. We held multiple sessions where they practiced, and then they could apply it at the Culture Festival. So we have one of our Freedom Scholars here, Kaylin Phi, and she got her henna done at the festival. People were really excited because you got to leave with something to remember, on your hand. And yeah, we see our National Art Honors member here getting really excited about it. And here are just some more general photos to look at. We have Sudan, Ecuador, China, Suriname.
And then we had a professional photographer come by at the event, and he created a little montage of the event that we wanted to show before we conclude our presentation.
Notice how food was like in every single clip? Yeah, they were really excited about that. Yeah, so now we have time for any questions. Yes.
Thank you. I enjoyed your presentation. I definitely enjoyed the other presentation too. So you all are budding sociologists of education, apparently, based upon these presentations. Wonderful work. My question is about the cultural diversity, your paper, the research. And I think it's wonderful. Definitely can move towards publication, it sounds like. So I've done work looking at with Black teachers in overwhelmingly white schools. We're talking about flies in buttermilk, right, if you can imagine, one among many. And so what I went in thinking was that it was race was going to explain it all. But what I found is that it really was, proportional representation, so numbers. So the idea that if you were a fly in buttermilk, that was a very different experience than if you were in a situation where there are 50% one and 50% the other, or 60-40. We call that the tilted experience. And then you have the uniform. And so I'm wondering, not based upon the research, the quantitative work, I'm curious what you think about that. So some of the experiences, whether it's performance pressures, boundary heightening, oh, look at this, and, or role entrapment, you are the whatever person. That a lot of those experiences I thought were racial, and they were racial tokenism, right? But there was a tokenism aspect that I had not considered when I did the research. And I'm curious, just based upon your experience, what you think about that.
So I think within my own like personal experiences in schools, as I mentioned before, I did come from. I was born in America, but I came to America officially and started living here in the 3rd grade. And so I think it was really interesting that I had some little quirks that I didn't realize were particularly because I came from Jordan and I was assimilated to their culture. So it was interesting to see like how, you look at the attention that you get to some of those details, and initially you think, oh wow, people are interested in my culture, and then it's like, oh, maybe they're not so interested anymore. So it's kind of like a matter of, you can't tell, I couldn't really tell in the beginning if it was appreciation or racism, but I think, as a society, we've kind of gotten a little bit better with that, especially in Alamance County. We've gotten a lot more diverse. I know I came from Hawfields Middle School, and I faced a lot of racism there, particularly because of my religion. And so now going to Williams, the fact that, we even had a culture festival at Williams was completely, that would never happen at Hawfields. So, it's good to see that shift in society over time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Bisan said it beautifully. Like I grew up like living in this society, like where most of the people around me are going to be either white or black or Hispanic, and there was really no one else like me. So that's why it was hard for my experiences personally. It felt like I had to be like them to succeed. So that was one of the biggest things for me. Any other questions?
I have a little feedback, not counting my daughter Kaylin, but I have spoken with some of the people in the community. I personally did not attend the festival. They absolutely loved it. They enjoyed the henna tattoos. They did talk about the food extensively, but I think it was a big success for people to come to me and tell me and share their stories about what happened on that day. It means you guys did a great job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Lane swears by them.
She'll open up a bakery sometime.
Yes, just wait. So,
Yes.
I just want to show appreciation too for your choice, for choosing UNICEF, because that's a childhood charity or childhood group that I have supported, I think, all my life, and very few people know about it. And so I just really appreciate the fact that you made it known to people here and the wonderful work that I think UNICEF does.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
and we've definitely worked a lot with UNICEF over the last 4 years. I think cumulatively we've raised about $700 through various fundraisers for UNICEF USA. And so it's kind of a matter of like spreading awareness. And a lot of our peers in our generation, they're not, I think actually we've grown a little bit past this, but the more that they become engaged and actually understand what's happening, the more interested they are in, donating and participating in helping causes like this. So we've been finding ways to create fun environments surrounding UNICEF and raising money for them.
Yeah. Especially going into freshman year and starting the club UNICEF, like we really saw like the engagement from students, because there wasn't really a club like that where like you could just like host events and have fun, and just anyone was welcome to join UNICEF, and there wasn't really like a necessarily like strict member list. So yeah, thank you for the appreciation of UNICEF. We're sad to leave it as graduating high school. Any other questions?
You talked about training your peers to host the festival. Have you thought about how you share the research and why it's important to keep this going?
Yes, so I think there's two factors to this. So actually the incoming president of UNICEF, the UNICEF Club, has reached out to me a numerous number of times to understand the quirks of the Culture Festival, learn how to do it. And so he's very interested in making sure that, he gets everything right. But about the research aspect of it, I think there's a lot of experiences that we've had, especially with the people at the Culture Festival. So we've held the Culture Festival for 2 years. The first year we had it, there was significantly less participation. We had about 10 countries and less amount of volunteers. And so over time, seeing that people came to the Culture Festival, appreciated the Culture Festival, and were like, this is actually really cool. I should participate next year. And so the following year, which was, what we just saw, we had a lot more participation, a lot more volunteers. And so over time, you can see that a lot of people became more confident in their culture. And so when they became more confident in their culture after seeing the community that they have around them. And so I will definitely be sharing our findings with the incoming executive council so they can see the importance of it. And hopefully at the Culture Festival next year, they can also present our findings and kind of display how important it is to have events like this. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.